everyone, welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Hazel Findlay. In this episode, I speak with Mason Earle. Mason is a really talented climber, adventurer, musician, and all-round great person. I've known Mason for many years now, and most of the time we've spent together has been climbing, probably in Squamish or Yosemite or round a campfire. And I've always known him as one of these super energetic lifestyle climbers that literally can't get enough of climbing and everything that comes with climbing. But a few years ago, Mason became terribly, terribly ill, and he basically watched his whole life disappear. And that's what we focus this conversation on. And this conversation is a really difficult but sobering conversation and a real insight into someone who's really struggling but truly making the best of what he has. Mason's mindset towards his illness feels like a reminder to us all to be more of two things: be more present and more grateful. In the first few minutes of the episode, Mason talks about how his illness has made him as a better person, which already completely blew my mind because it's so much harder to be kind and brave and positive when you've been handed such bad luck. So Mason's really demonstrating with a lot of courage how important mindset is, even when things are so bad you feel like giving up. I really hope that you get as much out of this conversation as I did, and you can see what an amazing person Mason really is. All right, thanks for your time and attention. And as always, if you want to support this podcast, please head to strongmindclimbing.com/podcast. Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. I was like, because I like prep a bit for these podcasts. It was kind of weird for me prepping for you because I was like, you're such a talented climber, and there's so many things you've done, but I'm mostly interested in talking to you about the last 4 years of your life. Like, is that weird?
That's great.
Does that make you feel bad or good?
Definitely good. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, definitely good.
That's good.
I appreciate that.
All right. Okay, cool. I was worried that I don't know, that you don't want to be defined by these last 4 years, or that you don't want people to forget how talented you are, or I don't know, I guess I couldn't put myself in your shoes with respect to what you would want to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I still love to talk about climbing. I mean, yeah, who doesn't like to talk about their exploits from time to time? Yeah, it's fun to remember those trips I got to do, those climbs I got to do, those nice moments with friends and partners. And it all seems like kind of compared to enduring chronic illness, it seems like it was a cakewalk in comparison.
Yeah.
I think of, these past 4.5 years and what I've endured, and I'm proud of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of how I've let this difficult experience shape me, because it can go a lot of ways. It can go really bad. I think it's made me a better person.
Right.
I think I'm a better friend and partner. I'm a better listener. I really prioritize putting good vibes out into the cosmos these days. And yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's really powerful. And, I want to hear more of the details on that, because it seems to me like it's been a journey for you to get to that point, right? And I bet there was a lot of ups and downs on the way. First off, it would be cool to just hear, how are you right now? Because it's a while since we last spoke. What kind of status is your illness at? And then maybe we can just go back in time a bit and you can talk about how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I am doing a lot better than I was for the first 2-3 years. The first 2-3 years were really severe and miserable, with a lot of suffering, nonstop suffering. So yeah, I'm doing better. I had these neurosurgeries. They fused my head to the top of my neck. They did an alteration to my spinal cord, where in my lumbar spine. it's hard to say for certain what is what, but it seems like certainly the neck surgery has improved my quality of life quite a bit.
Do they think, that, I guess, to just explain to people, your diagnosis is CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, right?
Yeah,
Which is like,
it's more referred to as ME.
yeah,
Or
okay.
ME/CFS. ME is the myalgic encephalomyelitis.
And what does that actually mean, like the Latin of that?
Myalgia, I think, means pain. Encephalo, spinal cord, painful inflammation or something. I don't know.
Okay, so
It's not,
people with ME, do they have to
yeah,
have something wrong with their spinal cord to have had the symptoms of the CFS, or how does it work?
no,
Okay.
no. ME and CFS are kind of interchangeable, but chronic fatigue syndrome just sounds like such bullshit that,
Right,
we hate
yeah.
to use it.
Okay.
In fact, I don't even think of fatigue as one of my symptoms.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean, it's really just a word for we don't know, right? In a way. It's a
Yeah, I mean, they
list
don't
of
understand
symptoms.
the path of physiology or whatever of the illness. Yeah.
Okay, but you've had these spinal surgeries, so they must assume that there's some kind of causation for you personally between the spine and your symptoms.
Yeah. And I figured that out pretty early on in my illness that when you lifted my head up in cervical traction or cranial traction, my symptoms would improve almost immediately.
Wow.
Like I would use a device or an inflatable collar and it would lift my head up, and almost immediately my brain would feel clear. My confusion would kind of just evaporate and I would just feel good and alive. And it was, it kind of felt like this miracle. And actually, once I started wearing this traction collar regularly, it really did improve my quality of life. Like my baseline went up considerably. That didn't really mean anything to any healthcare people. I saw
Oh, right.
spine surgeons and stuff in Salt Lake City, and they're like, well, I mean, the imaging all looks pretty normal, and we don't really know how to explain that. If the collar's helping you, keep wearing it. But yeah, we don't know what to say. But then I eventually found this surgeon who actually uses that improvement with traction as like one of his main criteria for diagnosis. And so I saw
Right.
him and talked with him, and it was like, oh my God, like this guy almost exclusively operates on patients like me. Let's give it a shot and get cut open and get my head bolted onto my neck.
Right. Yeah. I mean, worth a try.
Yeah, I don't regret it. It hasn't been like, I guess to finish your question, it hasn't been like a total miracle. Like I can't exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, for the first time in these 4 years, I went for like a proper hike a few weeks ago. It was cool to go for a hike up in the mountains. It felt pretty special to be up there again like that. But I really paid for it for 2 weeks. It took me 2 weeks
Wow.
to recover from the hike. And not like
Wow.
feeling tired, but like that profound brain fog and malaise and just being confused all the time. Yeah, the sensory sensitivities or, get really bad, light and noise. I have to close my eyes all the time, wearing sunglasses, wearing earplugs, just being like completely overwhelmed with reality. And I'm a person who really likes reality and like intensity too.
Well, yeah.
I like loud music. I like dancing and I like being on the sides of cliffs. And so it's an unnatural sort of status quo.
Yeah, totally. So, what's the prognosis? Is the prognosis that this surgery could still help more? Or are there more surgeries that are possible on the horizon? Or is this yet to be sort of decided and there's maybe more research and avenues for recovery?
Yeah, there isn't really a prognosis. No doctor could tell me with any confidence what I can expect. And if they tried to, I wouldn't trust their opinion because, just no one knows. That said, I have just kind of been steadily improving basically since my neck was fused. I've been slowly improving. And this summer, I'm doing the best that I've been doing. I've really, really been enjoying summertime, going for swims in the lakes and rivers and hanging out with friends and going for little evening walks, grandma stuff. But Like, I love it.
Nice. Yeah.
Just, yeah, be sitting on my porch and have the feeling of, oh, I really want to move my body right now. I want to go for a little walk. Just that is like, feels like a small miracle, because it's not like I couldn't walk before, but like, in the airport, I'd use a wheelchair to get to the gate. And yeah, it just like didn't feel good and made me feel awful. So yeah, that kind of small little shift really feels pretty awesome.
Airports must have been awful for you because I find them to be sensory overload and pretty
Yeah, it's awful
stressful.
for anybody.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that must have been like. Maybe it would be good if you could let us know, like, I don't know, like, I know that 4.5 years is a long time, but I think it would be great to just hear, like, how things were for you in that, like, transitional phase, We've known each other for years now, right? Like, when did we first climb in Squamish together? Like 2008?
Yeah, 2008 or 9. Yeah.
Me sketching my
Probably
way
8.
up you wall, and you're like, why do you not know how to crack climb?
No, I think I was equally sketching my way up, if not more. I mean, we bailed, I think.
Yeah, we failed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that 511 pitch was just way too hard for us.
It's like, we better just go down.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You were like a full-time climber, a total professional at just climbing the whole time, right? Like if you weren't climbing, you were doing like rope swings or like swimming in the river or like campfires and music. You were like the best at that life.
Oh, thanks.
Talk us through kind of how that happened. How can you go from that to, lying in bed for 20 hours of the day?
Yeah. Well, I was in Yosemite. And to back up a little bit, since like 2014 or 2015, I'd noticed that there was something sort of off with my health.
Mm.
And I started to get this thing where I would almost like clockwork, like once a month, I would get really sick and just have to do nothing for a couple of days.
Right.
But I wouldn't have like a cough or I wouldn't be congested. It was clearly something else. And noticing that it would just take me longer to recover from big climbs, like going out and bouldering hard and hard cragging would be fine. And I'd recover from that. But like big stuff would really take a toll. But then, spring of 2018, I'm in Yosemite climbing with Nick Barry. We're doing the wet denim daydream, wet lycra nightmare climb, which is such a cool climb. It's so good. And yeah, we were climbing that maybe third day on. Yeah, we actually both sent the crux pitch that day. It was the first day we both sent the crux pitch. And it was like, it was just like an awesome day of climbing up there. We kind of had like ropes fixed on it and we're working it. And yeah, we had a good day of climbing. I went down. My neck was just in excruciating pain that whole day. Every time I would look up to like yell at Nick or, craning my neck to like look up at a pitch or whatever, I just remember my neck was just screaming in agony. And I've had kind of belayer's neck pain for years and kind of just figured, oh, my neck's extra bad today. But I get wrapped down, start hiking down. And as I'm hiking down, I'm kind of like, oh boy, I do not feel that good. And by the time I got to my van, I was just this heavy, heavy blanket of just fatigue and malaise. And I knew somewhere on a deep level that something was really, really wrong.
Right.
I had like a throat infection like the week before. And so I had actually been sick the week before and I was even on antibiotics and had gotten better from that and was feeling good. And obviously, we went and had that big day of climbing and to then immediately get really sick again. I mean, I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. And it just felt different. And I knew something was wrong. And so I rested. I listened to my body. Week went by. I wasn't feeling better. So I pulled the plug and went back to Salt Lake and just like, all right, well, I guess I'll go to the doctor and see what the hell. There must be something that we can do about this. And that never led to anything. And I just kept getting worse and worse. And the first couple months I could kind of limp along through life. I wasn't climbing or anything, but I was doing things around the house and I felt okay. I just knew that I couldn't really exert myself. But then that August, it just like my symptoms just went off the edge of a cliff and became so severe that I couldn't even look at a computer screen or read text out of a book or listen to music or even play my guitar. I would kind of just sit in the living room with sunglasses on in the silence and just sit there. Or I felt better being horizontal, so I would just be in bed a lot. And yeah, obviously that was a really, really terrifying couple of months there where, things got really bad because, I just had no idea what was going on. And it went from me being afraid that I was going to lose my way of life and my passions like climbing and being active. And it quickly overshot all that to, oh my God, I might be completely fucked, which I guess I kind of was. But I don't know, I'm enjoying life now, so I guess not. But yeah, that was how it all started.
Wow. I mean, it's such a nightmarish story, right?
Yeah.
It's so full on because I think as climbers, we're used to stories of people being physically incapacitated,
Yeah, that's what we mentally prepare ourselves for. Like, oh,
Yeah.
what if this happened to us? Like, how would we pivot?
Yeah. Like, what if I ended up in a wheelchair for the rest of my life or something, right? But I don't think we like mentally prepare ourselves for like the lack of that cognitive ability, right?
Yeah, that's the worst.
It's not like you could put your energy into like learning a new language or something while you were physically incapacitated or something, right? It's like literally all the things that seemed to bring you joy were gone.
Yeah.
What was your mindset like then? Like, what were you telling yourself? Like, how did you manage that?
I mean, it was just full on survival mode. I didn't have anything to distract myself with. I didn't have anything to look forward to. And so I had to retreat to this place of, trying to be okay without having any of those things that all of us rely on a daily basis to just kind of be okay. There's probably a year there where I sobbed uncontrollable sobbing at one point or other for every day for, an entire year of just this immense grief, this just ocean of grief is still there. It's just it stays quite hidden most of the time now. But then it's just so emotional. And so, I was just kind of suffering through it. There wasn't really a trick. I was lucky that I have Allie, who is a really supportive partner, and, we get along really well. And, my parents would even come out and help take care of me for periods of time. And, I was still getting those Eddie Bauer paychecks. So, it was financially stable for at least the first couple of years of my illness. And so I had all like the framework to be able to survive something like that. I had support from people who loved me. And so, I just kind of suffered through it.
Were there any moments like, I guess that it probably got worse. There was probably more suffering when you thought like back to what you'd lost and then forward to like what you could still stand to lose, right? Or like the fear of not getting better. Were there any moments where you like were able to just be present and like have that fear drop away? Or was it just always with you?
Yeah, no, I would have these fleeting moments of sort of appreciation, maybe. Maybe it'd be a moment where like my symptoms kind of let up for even just a minute. One of the big problems was I was just always super uncomfortable in pain. But there were these fleeting moments where I would maybe feel like some gratitude for just, being alive. And I would be overcome with, kind of these happy emotions, kind of like happy crying. Yeah, I did have moments like that, but most of the time, if my anxiety wasn't through the roof, my immediate symptoms made life super miserable. It was just so every day was so jam-packed full of just feeling awful that that was difficult.
It's so much suffering to endure. How did you keep fighting? How did you keep kind of clinging on to hope?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I ask myself that sometimes too. Like, how did I do that? It was so awful. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but those most severe years, it was only 2 years, I guess, of like really severe. So it wasn't an eternity. I know people that are much more severe than I ever was. And, they've been that way for, a lot longer than 2 years. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of us humans, when things are going all right, we kind of forget that, there's a part of us that really is kind of designed to endure suffering.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why we go rock climbing is to kind of poke that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, I think it always was.
Do you feel like everything that you learned as a climber, like, did any of that prep you better for this? Because I was thinking about it and I was like, yeah, I mean, like on the surface level, probably not, because it's just obviously the suffering you have in climbing is just nothing like it. But then I
Yeah.
thought, like some of the decisions that you must make every day must be like, okay, should I do this? And like the risks of me doing this, you have to weigh up the consequences, right? Because I imagine that going for that hike, you had to make that call of whether that was a good idea or not.
Mm.
And perhaps like the rationale behind those risk decisions. I don't know. Did you feel somewhat more practiced at that as a climber? I don't know.
Maybe a little bit. The thing with climbing, I've always felt like, is that it forces you to be very present and to learn how to kind of get yourself to that same place in a situation where all you want to do is dissociate and not be present at all. It's so different. I'm not sure if that's really answering your question, but when I see people throw around the word suffering, with regards to climbing, there's always a little part of me that gets a little bit angry. Like, you don't know what that word means, damn it. But actually, like, I was just reading through my diary, my journal from that expedition we did to Venezuela, me and George Ulrich and Sieb and Sam Farnsworth. And like, I actually kind of suffered on that trip. I was not having a good time for a lot of that. And so that was like the closest experience I had to like really not be doing well for a sustained period of time, which is kind of funny to think back on. Yeah, that was all sort of a rambling answer to that, but
Yeah. I guess it's just a completely different challenge, isn't it? It's just you can't compare it.
there's no reward in like the classical sense like you have with climbing.
Yeah. Do you ever get that reward? If you make a good decision around your well-being and it pays off and your symptoms are alleviated for a short time, or, when you found this doctor that treated people like you, like, are there highs in that sense? Or is it like really, you've got to teach yourself to be like equanimous because the lows are so low, you can't really enjoy the highs?
I actually don't know that word that you just said, equanimous.
So, like equanimity, it kind of just means you're okay with how you are. You don't crave more and you don't contract away.
Yeah, that's a good word for that.
Yeah, I feel like that your whole illness was probably like a huge test of equanimity.
Yeah, absolutely. My highs are not very high. They're few and far between and they're very subtle. But when I have them, I'm very good at recognizing them. Like last winter, I was having dinner with some friends. I think it was someone's birthday. And we're just sitting around the table outside and food's being passed around. And I just was kind of glowing inside. And I was like, you guys, I'm so enjoying myself right now. It's like really cheesy, but like super fucking authentic. And everyone kind of laughed. Those are what my highs are like, just these kind of boring old moments that are actually quite, really nice. And
But
so
they're only,
I search those out.
yeah, but I mean, they're only boring when it's like the feeling's still the same, right? Just because someone else might not get that feeling. And that's like a weird thing about human psychology, right? It's like
Yeah.
Why do we think that that's different than like sticking the move on a boulder problem for the first time or whatever?
Well, the thing with like climbing and exercise is that you have endorphins on top of all of that. So like you are high. Um,
Yeah.
I guess I don't really know what endorphins are in like, a biochemical sense, but I don't think I've had any of those in a long time.
Yeah. Maybe you did have endorphins when you were having dinner. I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
not
I guess that's
technically,
possible.
but you still
Yeah.
had those feel good chemicals, right? And
Yeah, there
maybe
was
they
something,
mean more
serotonin moving
because,
around.
yeah, because it's like the connection to other people and stuff like that, like that really matters,
Yeah.
as you know more than anyone. Talk to me about gratitude.
Mm. Yeah, gratitude's like I feel like it's kind of a lifelong pursuit for all of us. Yeah, like yesterday, I remember, yeah, all day yesterday, just having this strong feeling of I want so much more from life right now. This is so awful. I can barely do anything. I want so much more from life. And I kind of cycle in and out of feeling like that. And I kind of just have to remind myself to retreat back to that same place of just kind of being okay and having gratitude for what I have. So yeah, I kind of part of my survival strategy, I guess, is remembering my gratitude and cultivating that.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, without it, it's like it would be hard to survive, right? It's such a powerful emotion, isn't it? Gratitude. It like does really turn things around emotionally sometimes.
Yeah. And actually, like, you can't really force gratitude either.
Mm,
Like, people say, oh, yeah, be, grateful for what you have. And I think there's a lot of sort of cognitive dissonance and like a lot of when people talk about their gratitude. Like, I don't know, I can wake up in the morning and like, speak out to my bedroom to all the things I'm grateful for that morning. But actually, that I don't think would really mean anything to me on a deep level. But when you can really feel that gratitude, yeah, it can be powerful. Like another moment that I was really powerful and strong. I was coming back to Reno and I was sitting next to my dad on the plane. It was just him and I. And he was kind of cycling. He was just on his iPad looking through old photos. And there was a bunch of photos of us all skiing together. And I kind of had this crazy experience where I became super grateful for, wow, I got to go skiing with my dad
mm.
and he loves me. How lucky am I to know what any of those things feel like? I mean, yeah, just kind of simple stuff that like sounds super cheesy, but when you really cut down to the little nuggets of truth in life, yeah, they're there to be found.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you can say it and not mean it, but I guess if you actually, and this is, I guess, what you're supposed to do when you do a gratitude practice is like actually bring to the forefront of your mind what it is that you are thankful for.
Mm,
And if you really are thankful for those things and you're not just making it up, I guess you can't help but feel positive as a result.
yeah.
But I guess, like, surely this illness of yours must have been such a test of gratitude. Did you have any other strategies to stay grateful and to stay thankful?
Not when things were the worst. I didn't feel very grateful for much most of the time, except for these very fleeting moments that were I didn't really have any control over. They just kind of I came by them and that was great. But certainly now I like really have that ability to really feel that gratitude. And I think that's like one of the major sends on my tick list. Life just feels a little bit more sparkly. I have these small things to look forward to that just kind of are the difference between my head being below the surface of the water to my head being above the surface, you know,
Mm-hmm.
able to breathe. And as a
Yeah.
side note, you'll notice that like when I'm talking, I'll always like slowly trail off and like kind of forget what I'm talking about. It's this fucking brain fog.
It
I'm like,
makes for quite a
okay,
calm conversation,
yes.
honestly. I'm like,
It's
great,
like,
he's
okay,
giving me some
Mason's
time to think about what I should say
stop talking now, Mason. Let Hazel say something and regather yourself.
next.
Yeah. And like, actually, that's really affected to continue with that point, it's really affected like my friendships. Like, I can't sit in a busy room with people, like, ba, 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 yeah, yeah, bah, like excited conversation. Like, the moment I try to kind of be like that and, talk fast and loud, like it'll fuck me up so quick. I'll lose my voice. I won't be able to sleep that night because like that sort of flywheel of adrenaline or whatever will have picked up. So yeah, all my social interactions are like tea ceremonies now. Like, yes, what shall we talk about today?
You just need to
Very
change the age
quietly.
group of all your friends. If you started being friends with all like 70-year-olds, then, it would.
Yeah, I do enjoy talking with my
70-year-olds
grandma.
British women, and you can just drink tea all day. It's honestly
Sounds
quite fun
nice.
drinking tea.
Yeah, I drink a lot of tea. My voice is so weak that I need to kind of like constantly hydrate.
Well, I don't want to take up more of your energy, but I wanted to ask you, well, two more questions if you still have energy, but
Oh, I have tons of energy. Don't go.
okay, cool. Okay, I'll stay. One is around your identity. Obviously, you identified really strongly as a climber when you still climb. Do you still identify strongly as a climber? And also, like, within that question is how connected are you to like the ME community, and how much is, I heard you say in a podcast, like you've accepted a disability status, and how much you identify as someone who's, struggling with one of the worst diseases you could have.
Yeah, I definitely still feel like a climber. I mean, I can't walk the walk, but I can still talk the talk.
It's all what it's about, anyways. Let's be honest.
And still do the climbing banter. But yeah, I definitely think of myself as a disabled person or a person who is disabled.
Do you care about the differences between those two phrases or labels?
Not me personally, but I think it's important for some people who maybe they feel like that. It's like, yeah, I guess it's probably better to say person who is disabled because I am a person.
Or not person who has a
foremost.
disability?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe that.
Because I guess like to have something means it can go away in the future. Whereas if you say I am something, it feels more permanent, right?
It does feel permanent though. I haven't let go of like the optimism that I will be able to run free again, but there's no doubt in my mind that I'm going to be sick tomorrow and I'm going to be sick next week and I'm going to be sick next month.
Mm-hmm. What do you think you would need to see to just to feel differently? And how do you not get attached to that? Have you let go of, I guess in the early days, you would just really hope that you would get better next week, right?
Yeah.
But after 4 years, like, have you let go of some of that desire or need to see progression in your symptoms?
No, not at all. I will die convinced that I will be healthy again. I'll either die healthy or I'll die convinced that I'll be healthy again. Say it like that. But my symptoms are so unwavering. There's no like break, like, oh gosh, right. Oh yeah, okay, all right, we're here.
Oh.
I just got a referral into a new, it's like a vascular neurologist or something like that, because we think one of the big veins, there might be some stenosis or something, some blockage. Or looking into that right now.
I don't know what a stenosis is. What's that?
Stenosis is like the narrowing of a cavity in the body. Like spinal stenosis is when the discs are protruding on the, it's a narrowing of the spinal canal. The discs are protruding on the spinal cord. We think I might have something called transverse sinus stenosis. And so that's one of the big, it's a sinus that empties blood from your brain into your jugular veins. So we think that one of them might be really closed off.
Right.
So yeah, we're looking into that now, and how my day-to-day life is just, it's unacceptable. It's really unacceptable to have to live like this. Yeah, I do have all these things that make life bearable and my relationships and, I have a roof over my head and all of that. But, we're not meant to be imprisoned in our bodies. That's just not how we're meant to live. So yeah, I'll never accept it.
Right. Yeah. It's a hard balance, isn't it? Because obviously you're totally right. It is unacceptable and you got to fight the fight. But at the same time, I guess you've also have to be grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
And try to be present and not cling and get too attached to these wins, which could be so fleeting, right?
Well, it's like the levels of acceptance.
These two things in your hand at once.
I accept that I'm sick today, and I accept that I'll probably be sick tomorrow, but that's about as far out as I'll go.
Right. Okay.
Well, I accept I'll probably be sick next month too, but yeah, I don't accept that I'll be like this forever because it's unacceptable.
Right. It's an interesting outlook. Yeah. That's cool that in a way, because it's like that's how you've managed to manage, right? Is like trying to accept where you're at right now, but this strong desire to change that in the future. What does that look like day to day? Like how much energy can you put into this yourself? How much ownership can you take to getting better?
Yeah, since I've improved a little bit, I've really taken my foot off the gas on like seeing doctors and stuff. And I kind of got to this point a year and a half ago where I said, okay, this year, I'm just going to try to live life the best I can. And that's what I've been doing. And it's been a great improvement. And yeah, I think maybe the past month, really, I've kind of started feeling a little bit like I got to hit the gas a little bit again and start trying to find a miracle for myself.
And what does
still living life.
Sorry, I can't tell when you finished or not.
Yeah, like the 5 second. No, there's a 5 second gap here in my point.
Sorry, I gotta count.
Yeah.
What does that look like day to day?
Well, let's take a look at my to-do list.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, most of my to-do list is like fun stuff, like, trying to get into like trying to figure out, some fun things to do. And then, I'm going to try to schedule a session with this type of therapy I've been wanting to try. So yeah, I'll schedule an appointment today, hopefully. So yeah, it's a very small part of my day to day at the moment. If I like really dive into like, it's like, oh, I'm going to read some scholarly articles on, transverse sinus abnormalities today. And like, it's just like depressing me. And somehow when I really start digging into stuff, not only does my brain fog really prevent me from, actually researching anything in a serious manner, but it just kind of makes me feel like I get buried in it. And I'm like, oh God, I'm never going to get out of here. I'm never going to get better. And yeah, maybe there's like a little bit of cognitive dissonance there with me trying to just pretend that I'm not sick a lot of the day, but whatever takes.
How connected are you to the, what do we call it, ME community? Or
yeah, the ME community.
And how much do you guys help each other?
We commiserate and we say, oh, have you tried this drug? Have you tried this drug? Have you tried this drug? Yeah, it's great. I have people that I talk to on almost a daily basis, most of whom have been sick for much longer than I have. Yeah, I mean, it is so eye-opening, some of the experiences people have that are it's difficult for me to understand, even with my perspective. I have to really listen, like, oh, wow, that's on such a whole nother level of what I've even experienced. And yeah, I really appreciate those relationships.
Yeah. And when you say it's a whole other level, is that in terms of their symptoms or in terms of the longevity of the symptoms for them?
Both. Yeah. I mean, there are people that are so severe with this illness that, well, it can be fatal, first of all. But there are some people that are so severe that they are completely bedbound. They haven't used their legs in years. They can't look at a screen. They can't listen to music. They just kind of lay there for years and years and years. Wow. It's like just an unfathomable hell. one thing that I am really grateful for is that my onset of my illness wasn't until I was basically my 30th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my 20s, I got to, especially with climbing, I got to do all my climbing dreams. I mean, I didn't leave anything on the table. I even snuck that Cobra Crack send in right at the end there.
Oh, wow. I remember your journey with Cobra Crack. That's so
Gosh.
funny. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
All the times going up. I think I even tried it with you. I
Well,
even
yeah,
tried it on top rope.
I
And I
was
was like,
thinking
this is
back
horrendous.
to some of those days that you were up there climbing, and I remember you put up a route up there at that crag.
Hazel's Horror Show, you named it.
Is that what it ended up being called?
It's in the guidebook as that.
I have to credit Dave Trippett with that.
That name
You remember
rings a
him?
bell.
Yeah, he had that dog Obi. He died
Oh, yeah.
some years ago.
Oh, I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah. Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, he's like, hey, tell her to call it Hazel's Horror Show. It was his idea. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was his idea.
It was great.
That's fitting.
Yeah, I have so many regrets from that period of my climbing, because there I was trying Cobra Crack thinking, oh, I'm going to send it next try, and like spending an entire summer like that, and not really climbing other things, and like I never even tried that route that you put up. Like, what a shame.
I don't think you missed out on much.
But another memorable day up at that crag, and this is for all the Hazel fans out there, is that I remember belaying you on that technical finger crack, the magical dog, or going to California.
Yeah.
I belayed you on it and you sent it, and you really climbed it like it was a 5'9", like scramble. I mean, it was like, oh yeah, cool. All right. She did it. It didn't look too bad. So you're up at the anchor, you pull the rope up, and I start following, and I couldn't even do the moves. These giant ledges that you'd been standing on, these huge footholds, like, oh yeah, there's a big foot there. There's a big foot there. I get up there and it just like wasn't, what was she standing on?
Oh, that's funny.
It was really eye-opening ass kicking that I received.
I mean, I think it's just the difference between practicing a route and not practicing a route.
I guess. I don't know.
But thanks. Yeah, it's such a great crag up there. It's so cool.
Such a special spot to hang out. Yeah.
I think I've seen on your Instagram that you've been going out to some of your old haunts a little bit, like getting out into the desert and stuff. Like, how's that going? Because they're such beautiful places, and I bet you really enjoy being in them, but is it tainted a little bit because you can't climb?
Maybe I haven't really posted about this publicly, but you heard it here first, folks.
Yes.
I climbed a 5.7 the other day, 3-pitch.
Oh, wow.
It was mostly 5, like 0, but there was like a couple 5.7 moves at the start, 3 pitches.
How did that feel?
Difficult, and it's not like the start of the comeback tour or anything, but it was very special. On my birthday this past August, I led the first pitch.
Nice.
And actually the most difficult part of it was like bringing the rope up.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. I never factored that into like my climbing days, that was a lot of exertion to like bring the rope up and then belay. But that was the most exhausting part. But
Mikey would tell you to fix and get her to mini traction next time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's short fix, disabled short fixing.
Was that with Ali?
It was actually with my friend Tara here in Reno.
Oh, Tara Kushner.
Tara Christensen. No.
Oh, different.
Oh, no, different Tara. Yeah. Yeah. Ali has been like, speaking of expeditions, she's been on this insane expedition all summer for her PhD. And so she's been out camping out in the Nevada desert, basically for the past like 6 months. So yeah, she's been gone a lot, which has been awful. She's back right now for a few weeks. So that's really one of my things to look forward to. So yeah, she says hi.
Hi, Ali. Yeah. How's it being kind of maintaining relationships that you had before your illness and that kind of thing?
I mean, that's what I put a lot of energy into now, is the relationship with Ali and the relationship with our community here in Reno. And, I spent a couple months in Moab this spring because I'm still have some really close friends back there. Yeah, that's where all my energy goes into right now is, yeah, just kind of building and maintaining those relationships because I get so much out of them now. Like the fact that people enjoy my company is like really important to me. Like I need to maintain that. I want people to want me around because I get so much out of the limited socializing I'm able to do that, yeah, that's an important investment. This probably sounds kind of funny, but yeah.
No, I mean, we all do it anyway, right? But I guess when you go through something like you've been through, you really learn what the actual really important things are. And I think it also seems like a real testament to your mental strength, right? That you are a fun person to be around. Maybe fun's the wrong word, but people enjoy your company, right? And
I know, which is kind of a surprise. Like, oh gosh, like I think back to all the years of me climbing and like it's pretty self-centered. But I guess I somewhere in there on the borders, the margins of all that, I was doing something right.
You're a very likable person. But what I mean was like, I feel like I would be an extremely bitter person. How do you not let the bitterness take over? Like when you're hanging out with people who are leading the life that you ought to be leading, right? That you deserve to lead. How do you not be bitter and jealous and mean spirited?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question and something I kind of forget about. But yeah, for the first couple years of being really sick, anytime I was around people, I felt like that, like if they only knew. And so every conversation I had was all just like, this is how fucked up things are for me right now. This is how gnarly it is. Me just trying to get people to understand. And, that did come from a place of bitterness, obviously. And, I recognized that and I just kind of slowly let go of it.
Right.
And, when people do ask me, just kind of having some self-awareness, I guess, when people do ask me how I'm doing, it's like I really appreciate it. And actually, one of those fleeting moments of gratitude and joy. I was talking about how things were and how fucked up it was and telling a friend all this. And she goes, wow, that sounds fucking awful. Just like a little bit, I guess it's validation or something, or, being seen a little bit. It felt so good. Like, yes, it is awful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. I'll take my bow. Yeah.
I think that points to something in our society. I think sometimes people call it toxic positivity. I think it's worse in America, but it's like this need to say something positive or find something positive or find the silver lining. And sometimes you just really want people to see you and see what you're saying. And if what you're saying is awful, for them to understand that, and just listen and go, gosh, that sucks.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, sure does. Yeah. I love to throw out sometimes when, someone very casually just asked me, oh, how are you doing? Like, someone at the grocery store. And if I'm just in a bit of a cheeky mood or something, I'll just be like, I am unwell. I am not doing well. And they'll be like, oh, sorry to hear that. They're kind of not quite prepared. They weren't really asking me how I was doing. It was
a little bit mean, but
yeah,
we'll let you off.
You know what I will say about, I think in the culture where British culture, it's keep that stiff upper lip. There's a lot of that, which is maybe a different type of toxic positivity. I don't know.
Toxic pessimism.
Yeah.
Well, life is shit, so get on with
it. It rains all the time. What'd you expect?
Yeah. I think this leads to maybe a question here around what could we, the majority of society that do not understand at all what it's like to go through what you've been through, what do you want to tell us? What can we do to remotely understand or to make your life easier? Or I don't know. What do you want to see in the mindset of the rest of the population with regard to these sorts of illnesses?
Yeah, I think that that kind of like, really listening to people can really go a long way. Trying to just, make the smallest effort to understand what someone's life is like can be really powerful for somebody, can be a real gift. But also, I think people look at kind of the hand I've been dealt and, my illness, and it's how hardcore it's been and awful. But actually, I want people to, actually even kind of open their mind to things like mental health problems, like depression. Severe depression gets a similar quality of life score to ME. And that's saying something. I mean, I think schizophrenia, depression, and ME are kind of in there. And so actually someone might be living a kind of a normal life, and under the surface, it just might be like borderline unbearable. And having really bad relationship problems can be extremely painful. And, there's all these different ways that life can be extremely difficult, and they get sort of rated and prioritized in a way that they shouldn't, I think. And I think we can all be there for each other a lot more.
Yeah, that's a great message. The support for people suffering with mental health in the UK is atrocious. I mean, I imagine it's probably pretty bad in the States as well, unless you have really good healthcare.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really qualified to like talk about this probably, but I almost don't like the term mental health. I think it should just be called health.
Yeah.
Because it's immediately stigmatized. Oh, he has mental health problems. She has mental health problems. It's just immediately stigmatized. And like, I have mental health problems. One of the my reactions of my illness was just being like extremely anxious all the time in like a really debilitating way that made my life much worse.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any stigma around that. I would go in to see my psychiatrist, and since I've been sick, and he would say, well, how is your mood? And I'd say, it's fucking awful. Like, what would you expect? And he's like, okay, well, we need to try to improve your mood. There's these different ways we could do that. And I'm like, well, what? That's like, doesn't make any sense. Like my mood is honest. I'm very honest with myself.
It's a very appropriate mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it probably points to the broader like lack of meaning in that distinction anyway. Like if they find out that the reason you have ME is because of something in your brain, does that make it a mental health issue? Do you know what I mean? Like how do we define mental health? The only thing that I would say though is that if we don't have a name for it, we don't have funding for it. So like if we just,
it's harder to address it head on.
Yeah. If we merged something like depression into health, people with depression don't get help anymore. I feel like could be the problem with that.
Yeah, that's probably a more important priority, and just trying to kind of slowly let go of these stigmatisms.
Yeah, I think they are changing. Actually, I think we're kind of waking up to like the reality of mental health in our society and the degrees of suffering that people are going through. Doing stuff about it is difficult, though, a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's such a complex sort of, there can be so many different ways into mental health problems.
Yeah.
Environmental and genetic and trauma and
Yeah, we're very complex things, us humans.
Sure are. It doesn't take much for the wheels to come off the bus.
No. Okay, I have one final question for you. And this phrase like, a wise person always learns from the mistakes of others. And I guess the same could be said for like a wise person learns from the challenges of others, What have you learned, in the past 4 years, other than, what we've talked about? But what do you think you could share?
I don't think I could put it into like a message or anything, into like send any sort of phrase. But what I've learned is I've taken what I've learned and I've let that kind of inform the way I interact with the world. That's what I've learned has gone into, and it's all simple stuff, that tired old sayings. And yeah, I'm bad at answering this question, I guess. Brain fog moment. Whatever I've learned, I've already forgotten. It's already gone.
I guess I can say what I've taken from this conversation and from listening to other podcasts with you and reading your Instagram posts is like what we have is not a given. It's something very, very special. Like every day is just like really special, and don't let it go by. I suppose,
Yeah. Sorry to stumble on like your closer. Like, here's where the climax, the meat, yeah, totally. It is a very special thing to be alive, and you don't have to be doing anything rad or exciting to be special. And that's coming from someone who very much lived that high all the time lifestyle, both figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to kind of, have your life based around just fun, rad, awesome, exciting. Yeah, it's really hard to let go of all that. And I'm still not even halfway there.
Yeah, it's all a big process. Do you ever try to attach meaning? Like a religious person might be like, God has given me this because, do you have that kind of approach at all? There's greater meaning in all this, or?
Yeah, it's always kind of a big mystery, isn't it? I mean, I grew up with really very much atheist parents, and I've kind of just developed my own spiritual framework, or lack thereof, as I've lived life. I think about, gosh, there's all this stuff I want to do in life, and I want my life to be important and, to mean something. And what if I died having not accomplished anything else in life? You kind of have to look at that and be like, well, actually, that would be just fine. We're all going to die. Some of us don't accomplish anything in our lives. Some of us die way too young. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit bleak, but I try to sit with that whenever I kind of get to that deep place of questioning. And it's like, well, I'm here. I'm going to try to do whatever I can to make my day-to-day life bearable and enjoyable. And past that, beyond that, I'll do what I can to make it good for other people. And I think that's about the extent of my spirituality right there.
I mean, it seems like a good recipe for contentment, to be honest. And talking about accomplishments, I mean, I can't think of a bigger accomplishment than to keep your head screwed on as you have with this illness. So keep doing what you're doing, and I hope you get better.
Yeah, hell yeah. Awesome, thanks. Yeah, me too. I really hope that. I believe it somewhere deep down there as well.
Nice. Cool. Well, thanks a lot, Mason.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you're not already, think about becoming a podcast community member. $8 a month, you get access to all of our bonus content, which is slowly growing and growing. You also get to suggest future guests and ask them questions, and also attend our live events. If you would like access to more mental training content and to our coaches and to our live events, you can become a full Strong Mind community member, and you can find information about that at strongmindclimbing.com and then go to the community page. What's really cool about our community is that we are having really great conversations about psychology in climbing. We're connecting like-minded people, sharing experiences, and I think one of the biggest benefits is that every month we focus on a particular topic in mental training and psychology, and we really explore it with depth through live events, discussions, workshops, and pop-up sessions with expert coaches. Psychology is one of the toughest areas of climbing and life, and we often don't have the skills, knowledge, and even the language to discuss and learn about our own psychologies. So with this community, we're really hoping that it's the connections that we build between one another and the conversations and the discussions that we're having, whether that's between members and coaches, or between professional climbers or expert coaches that we bring in from time to time to discuss particular areas of mental training and psychology. So if it sounds like something that you could benefit from, either because you're interested in psychology or because you'd like to build a stronger mind for climbing and for life, please visit strongmindclimbing.com and head to our community area. Thanks so much for your time and attention, and I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day.